welcome, ghouls, demons, and fellow weird ones. Let's drink some moon juice. All right, what am I going to talk about today? A lot of things, but the first thing that I wanted to deal with, this is still really hot. Yeah, burning me. You can see the steam off of it. All right. Where am I going? Let's get started. Okay. I'm going to be talking about a reflection of my Scorpio season meltdown. For those of you who have me on TikTok, or for those of you who've seen, I uploaded the videos here on YouTube. But I wanted to do a podcast reflection about it. But first, a word from our sponsors, the moon juice tea. I don't have the exact moon juice recipe, but I'm very excited about Todd from Todd's Eclipse Alchemy. I want to make sure I get that right. He is my tea guy, and he has developed a few different teas for me to get the moon juice tea, and then that's going to be the tea. I know I talked about it at the end of Rosemary's episode, but it's in motion. I'm excited. This one is called Step Into Fall. It is what I've had of it. It's delicious. This is my first time. I waited for a very special occasion to drink it for the first time. And it's out, and the sip I had was delicious. It is very fall, it is very hot, so I will have more to say about it later, but it is the start. So he's my Scorpio. Okay, so all ties together. My Scorpio tea guy stepping into fall with me as I post-Halloween, no longer having a day job at the clinic. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of change in the air. And as I was coming up to this change, I had a meltdown on TikTok. And it wasn't supposed to start that way. It kind of surprised. They always sneak up on me. Not only my emotions sneak up on me, but the realizations, the epiphanies, the clarity that comes through when I'm talking or channeling, because I'm just in a constant state of channel. Every time I talk, just yep. It's a state of channeling, and that is paraphrasing what other people have told me. I just am leading more and more into understanding what it is when I talk and what comes up. But as I'm in my random stream of consciousness, the subconscious and the unconscious mind tend to rise to the surface, and that's where like the whole story comes into play, is the chaos of the void of the ocean, and all of those water symbolisms, which is huge in Scorpio. You know, it's like the phoenix energy on top of this water element. And so your emotions, not only do they drown you, but they can just burn you, and then like bring you to ashes. And you can see that symbolism through like the volcanic element of the volcanoes in the ocean, and then how it rises into earth, and everything comes from water, blah. I'm getting nervous, and so I'm reminding myself to slow down, because I don't like having to stop and start. But I try to get into the flow and direct my thoughts. But that's a big part of it, is the constant channeling is all of this stream of chaos and organizing the chaos, because for me, it's everything all at once. And then I have to make sure I pick the right string at the right time and weave it properly. And for communicating, that's difficult. That's where, again, my writing is significant. I've always felt like speaking is chaotic, and it's really hard for people to follow all of it. But then because it's like, just where do you start? I know I've said this in a 1,000 different times at 1,000 different videos, and it's like, okay, sorry, just get going on it all. But how am I going to connect this? Well, so through talking. A lot of the oceanic floor, the dust rises, so to speak, and that's where like the emotion tends to surprise me, because like I said in my meltdown, I reserve my emotions for myself. I'm expressive, I'm animated, and all of the above, but it's not curated necessarily. Sorry, that's fun. That was a pun, and I didn't intend it to be. it's not that I've curated this polished emotional expression. I like to, I'm an Aquarius. I like to sit with my emotions. I process it. I mope around, as my husband likes to say, but it's just a deep processing, and then I logicalize them and I express them in my own way. And then when I present them to others, that's where because I've already processed it, I don't like to process in front of people. That could be an emotional vulnerability that I struggle with. I don't mind talking like deep emotion. Like when I'm telling the story and it comes down to like telling the story and expressing all of the emotions, it's totally fine. I don't mind crying in front of people. I don't mind expressing deep emotion in front of people. So it's like, where's the disconnect? It's the processing of the emotion in real time in front of people that I don't like. When it's something I process and I'm just kind of repeating the story and going into this more, I guess, I don't want to say performance because it's not a performance, but like I guess an entertainment role. Like I am in the role of storyteller. And so when I'm in the role of storyteller, it's a completely different expression than when I go into something trying to tell a story and then there's a side quest or a rabbit hole, tangent, whatever it is that takes me down another stream of emotion. And so leading up to me going, like, leaving my job and all of these things and all this change and just really trusting that this is what I'm supposed to do, trusting the intuition, trusting the process, surrendering, and realizing just how hard it is to surrender, how hard it's been to surrender this entire Pisces Saturn return, how hard it is to, is that a bee? Oh, cute. I've never seen a bee float up this high and just like stare at me through the sliding glass. Anyway, love that omen for me. I don't know where I was at. Give me a second. Bugs everywhere. They're just popping up on the window. Okay, anyway. So I went into having this TikTok video, which is one of my story times, where I just wanted to kind of talk about some of the emotions that I had processed. And then it took not really a harsh turn, it took a vulnerable turn. For me, it was a little embarrassing. I wanted to jump off a cliff. I really did not like it, and you can see in the video, I'm really struggling to just fucking record the video, kind of like how I'm having a hard time here. And that's because it's like, maybe I'm a little gun shy. I'm like, oh, what emotions are going to come up? How am I to explain any of this to anyone? And why do I need to explain it? What is the reflection? What is the wisdom? What is the purpose? Well, sometimes the purpose is just sharing my experience for people to relate to, or for me, it's breaking my own self-importance down into being vulnerable and emotional in that way and not being afraid to process the emotion in front of people and understanding what that power is. There's depths of vulnerability, and I think that's kind of what I was tapping into. But I wanted to, like, because I was all week long, for a couple weeks actually, leading up to that meltdown. Well, I think it was the first quarter of Aquarius. So that extra fun. That's extra funny to me. So I am an Aquarius stellium in the 8th house. So there's like, I always say I'm a Scorpionic Aquarius. And so that's the astrological alignment and why that's humorous or synchronistic in like lunar magic and healing and what that shadow element represents. And so I had a really hard time at my last couple events with people's reactions, like loud reactions and responses to my candles and their prices, or my books and their prices. I'm an expensive brand, as it's been told to me multiple times in multiple ways. Some of it nice-ish. Most of it's not very nice or kind. It's not even like about being nice. It's about being kind. It's about being understanding that I am a independent artist, creator, a small business. I am a one-woman show, and I am putting myself out there, and I don't understand the ridicule that anyone has against anyone putting themselves out there. Even if it's not my preference, like, you go get them. You do your thing. You make your impact on the world in your medium. I'm not part of your collective, but that doesn't mean I can't cheer you on in your own way from the sidelines. Like, I'm not going to sabotage you. I'm not going to talk shit unless there's something severely unethical, spiritually unethical about what it is that you're doing. And that's where, like, I feel and think, fucking Christ. I think and feel, that, like, I align with the moral ambiguity of the divine, so to speak. I find that I can detach from the human morale, and that's where I get some of my really quirky philosophies and principles that send the fucking world into a spiral, which people have witnessed multiple times on, especially TikTok. Very interesting how it's always TikTok. Nothing seems to happen. No one pays attention to me on Instagram, which is totally fine. I've been a hidden gem on Instagram for a while. I had a fairly decent following and platform on Twitter years ago. I haven't dealt with Twitter or X or what the fuck ever in a very long time. It's like right around the pandemic is when, like, I was just over it. And so this all connects into the reflection of the Scorpio meltdown, and I'm processing all of this self-expression and experience and putting myself out there, and then you're met with ridicule. And I understand you have to have, like, thick skin. You have to be not guarded or protective of yourself. There's a lot of self-preservation that goes into expressing yourself out into the world. But I just, like, as much of a hater as I know I can be, it's because I'm opinionated. I have strong opinions. I have very specific ethics, and so that goes into, like, I can tell when people aren't doing things from a pure place, a genuine place of love, a genuine place of passion. And I've always had issues with people who are inauthentic or doing things for, just, I guess, not the right reasons. Like, on any level, it could be corrupt levels, or just like, what the fuck is the phrase? Not really self-sacrifice. That's not the right word. I need to start this over. It's fine. Welcome, ghouls, demons, and fellow weird ones, and let's drink some moon juice. So, to, I guess, get started with it all, episode, 5 or 6 or something like that. So, my lovely Scorpio, Todd, he is Todd's Eclipse Alchemy, and he's my tea guy, and he's going to, as I've talked about, I think I mentioned it in a couple other videos. Anyway, he's going to make a moon juice blend, very specific for the podcast, and that is what people will be drinking. I'll be drinking when I'm doing my solo things. If I have guests, that's what I'll offer them if they would like some, but I'm really excited for it. This, however, is a blend called Step Into Fall. I waited until a special occasion for me to try it out, and it's delicious. It's a deep clove, it's like spice. Like, I know there's a lot of clove and cinnamon in there. I can taste for sure. Does absolutely love honey. Not too sure what else is in there. Not going to give away his recipe, but just to give people an idea, fucking delicious. So, with that, with my Scorpio blessing, I am going to step into the fall of my Scorpio meltdown. It felt like a fall from grace, wholeheartedly. Being that emotionally vulnerable in that way, it has thrown me off my rocker in quite a few ways. I have struggled to record more videos to add to what I keep doing. I felt like just a blockage, and so I'm trying to push through that, imperfect and all. Because usually I'm really good at, like, setting out, doing one take, let's go. Like, once I get into the flow, I get into the flow, but it's been really hard for me to get back into the flow from that meltdown. It wasn't like a crazy meltdown. I cried, and there was anger and aggression within it, which then broke down into sadness, which, anger is a secondary emotion, and it's usually masking sadness. But then I've also learned that I like argumentatively speaking, but I would say that sadness can mask anger. Especially as a woman, now you're not really allowed to be angry or aggressive or any of these things, but it's really common and more socially acceptable for a woman to be sad. So I find that I feel like it's addressing my anger. The whole Scorpio meltdown is addressing my anger, which has been a common message for me to focus on, and I'm not too sure how to express it. I feel like I've expressed it in 1,000 different ways. It's come up a billion different in a billion different directions on social media. This one was the one that it surprised me because I wasn't expecting to be as angry or aggressive in the video, and then it kind of started off, and especially when I replay it, my initial tone was definitely like confrontational, and there was like a wrath behind it, and I was like, okay, and then it broke down into tears, and then I had to push through the tears, and it opened up this whole door of things, but also I feel like it ignited me and burnt me to a crisp, which is a very scorpionic theme. It happened around the first quarter in Aquarius, which is also significant for my personal birth chart placements as a Aquarius stellium in the 8th house. I found all of those alignments interesting, and there was a huge push and huge call for me to record that video then and there against my will. This was a universal will. This was a divine calling, a thing I had to put myself through, a humiliation ritual, if you will, because it was humiliating for me. Not that it is humiliating, as I even said in the video. I never wanted to be one of these people who cried on social media. Not that I think you have to keep yourself together, which I think a lot of people think, because I'm always well put together. I just like to process things differently and privately. I only want very specific people to witness that raw sense of emotion, mainly because I probably, truthfully, actually, realistically, it's because I am afraid of being hurt. I'm afraid of being judged. I don't think most people in the world handle raw emotion very well. And childhood was a really good example of that. I am a non-emotional person per human design, and so what that means is I'm become incredibly sensitive. So my husband and I, we actually mirror that, both sides of that scale within each other, which I think is really fun. He's a non-emotional generator as well as I am, but I would be on the overly sensitive side, like the water. And so, water, as any little ripple kind of rattles it, right? So that would be me. I'm non-emotional, so then I feel emotion really intensely when it's present. And my husband is the opposite, where he's non-emotional and he's non-emotional. He's non-emotional. It takes significant. So he's Earth. So it's like it's the earthquake. It takes intense frequency for him to move and feel emotion, and so I think that's where we clash. I just pictured a wave going into a cliff. That's fun. So it's where we clash, but it's also where we merge together because through fire. So this is like kind of how I envision Scorpio in a way, but the earth was created through the core, the fire of the core, the magma from the core coming up from these oceanic volcanoes, and then the dust, the ash of that dries with the water, and it keeps building until you get Earth. In a nutshell, I know that that's not perfect science and other things, but that's kind of what the essence of Scorpio reminds me of as you kind of move through into these winter months. In a sense, and working with the complexity of Scorpio, because everyone's like, Scorpio's a water sign, how? And everyone shows like fire coming out of like a faucet or something like that. So you have this fire element because of the Phoenix transformation energy of Scorpio. And so I feel like that's exactly what that video did was, on top of all of the other astrological things that occurred at the timing of me doing that, I set myself on fire. Needed to set myself on fire, apparently. And so, like, where did it come from? It's something that's always been there. It's something I've been frustrated with the entire time of doing my business. And I haven't shared a lot of personal, I guess, feelings. I've been trying to figure out, like, what this is, because there was this thing of understanding that people don't really know my story, people don't really know my lore, people don't really know me, they don't understand me. And then I feel like a transparent open book, and it's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, I put my diary out there for the world to see. Well, people aren't really reading it. People are consuming content through more video and auditory mediums. So how do you evolve into from this more writer person into the other role? How do you find balance in all the mediums that could easily go into some Gemini placements and things, third house things, all of the above? Like, there's a lot of things that could go into that. And so I've been kind of trying to process it. But to backtrack, the frustration really came from the reactions, and the uncontrolled projections of others onto me in my business and through my whole journey, because I tend to be someone who self-absorbed but definitely self-focused. You have to let me know when you need me to focus on you, like, and if you don't communicate something, and it doesn't mean you have to say, hey Sarah, like, quit thinking about yourself, think about me right now. That's not what I mean. You can be telling me something's going on, but if you don't tell me something's going on, I don't know. I don't know to redirect my attention, and I'm just going to keep focusing on what it is that I'm doing. So there's a lot of one-sided competition, one-sided beef, all of these things that I tend to be fairly oblivious to. Like, I pick up on stuff, again, emotionally sensitive. But if you don't bring it to my attention, like, hey, you're bothering me in this way, I like to make mountains out of molehills until I do. Until I do. And it's because I picked up on all of these subtle things, and I didn't address it because it's not my job, it's not my responsibility, but it's hard when you are aware of everything. Because then I've learned, if you prematurely bring it up to the person, then that's where, like, gaslighting, all these other things come in. So it's like, okay, well, just remain open and they'll talk to you about it when they're ready, or they'll do what I do, which is, if I can, I'm going to process it privately. I am a human being just like anyone. I feel envy, I feel greed, I feel gluttony, I feel sloth, I feel all the 7 sins. However, I will sit with myself and be like, okay, why am I envious of this person? Why am I jealous of this person? How do I heal this within me? And where is it coming from? And move on from it. And because I don't think it's fair. It's not fair of me to project that onto other people. I don't like say, I guess, like, I'm in control of my emotions, but, like, I wield the sword that is my emotions. I have emotional intelligence. Like, I don't know how else to really word that. Because I don't like the phrase being in control of my emotions, because there was a time where being in control of my emotions meant suppressing them, ignoring them, not feeling them, where now I've learned how to process them so that way they don't seep out and explode onto people, which is still not a perfect process. Because it's just it's so complex in the context of, yes, there was a time where I would explode onto people, but then at the same time, there's this other side of it where I am authentically and genuinely expressing my emotion, and I am in control of it, but I'm not in control of it in a suppressive way or in an oppressive way. I'm in control of it in a mature way. It's weird how subtle the differences are, and it all comes into intention and context. That doesn't mean it's not perfect, and doesn't mean that I don't crash out or explode on people, which is kind of how part of that Scorpio meltdown felt. It was a buildup of not really expressing to the world how they were making me feel. For just like the generalization of it all is there's just such this misunderstanding, and I kind of got overwhelmed being misunderstood because of all of these negative reactions and comments that I have absorbed and consumed over years. And then through me handling those emotions privately and I guess trying to have some self-preservation and not because they tell you don't let people know that they got to you. I don't subscribe to that so much anymore. As I think people need to know how badly that they hurt or affect you or others. Because my whole life I just was like, okay, that hurt. I'll deal with it. And I guess I'll process it. I'll do the work. And I can't control you. I gave up on controlling other people or trying to convince people to do the work while all at the same time nagging them to do the work. It's such a paradox. It's such a contradiction. This entire video, this entire journey, this entire discernment of the scales that like you're so fine tuned and what you have to balance. And so anyway, I would do what the Aquarius would do, and it's not, I didn't act like I didn't care. Like it was obvious that I cared, but I still had this more, which I think would be the more Capricorn side of me, but this more reserved and cold, detached. Was that one? That's Aquarius. Cold and detached. Like there was just a huge level of detachment where I was just like, okay, like here's the thing, intellectually speaking, this shouldn't bother me. You're wrong in every ethical plane that I could think of. Like again, it's about the principle, it's about the philosophy, it's about the ethics of it. And therefore, yes, it hurts my feelings, but I'm going to cry in private. I'm not going to let you know that I'm a human being and you just stabbed me in the heart. I'm going to tend to my own wounds and I'm going to move on. And I don't care. And so then, like, I don't know, it kind of created this illusion that I am invincible while at the same time proving that I am invincible. It's kind of funny. It's an awkward at the same time. Because I was not wrong in the philosophical approach or the logicalization of the emotion, and like this is not this has no weight, no substance. But then at the same time, when you have a massive influx and a constant cycle of those kinds of reactions towards you, it's like, okay, well, why am I co-creating this? Why is this happening? Well, I firmly believe a lot of the things that happen to me are so I can teach the shadow work elements of things. You have to experience it to then be able to teach it and remember all of the work that my soul has done lifetime after lifetime and all of the above. This is something I've dealt with just for a really long time. Just, I guess, maybe being too ahead of my time, being incredibly unique. I just seem to rub people the wrong way in how I chose to express myself. And then it's realizing, well, you are expressing yourself fairly defensively. And it's like, well, why am I constantly having to defend myself? It's like, because I pick up on all these subtle, shady things that the person's doing. I've learned in my psychological studies, it's dog whistling. And so I am real in tune. That's the 8th house. I'm real in tune to those dog whistles. And then I would pretty aggressively out of self-defense and then look insane to everybody around me. Or I wouldn't say anything and I would just let it slide, and then I would let it build up, and I would build a RICO case against the person. Because I was like, well, I got into a habit of having to collect data and evidence to prove somebody did something, because it wasn't good enough for me to just trust my intuition to begin with. And so it's all of the scorpionic energy and theme within myself. And then that goes back to my business and similar things. I would tell people, like, just more on an intellectual, detached, neutral base, especially for being online. I presented myself to be a robot, and then I was wondering why people didn't understand I was human with feelings, and like, hey, what you say matter. It doesn't matter, but it matters. Like, if it's not for you, just scroll on. I don't because the internet, like, people, and that's the thing, people don't say shit to your fucking face. If nobody says anything to my face, and that's what irritates me the most, is everyone will text each other, people have like private little conversations, people like to make videos about me, or they'll leave a comment on something, or whatever it is. But then they don't have that same energy in person, because if they did confront me in person, if it was more confrontational, which is the thing, like online, that is how I handle people in person. The same way I handle people online is the same way I handle people in person. And why it's okay to do so in person, but not okay to do so on the internet, or vice versa, I don't fully understand. Because we're still people. We're still people interacting with people, just in a different medium. And why people have this false sense of security or confidence to not be how they would be is insane to me. So, confrontational on the internet, confrontational in real life, but strategically confrontational. You pick and choose your battles. At the beginning of my healing journey, I would say I was more reactive and more quicker to confront people, and I think that also reflects in my responses to people online. But then I also kind of just have this general voice of conviction. Am I gonna burp? There it is. Sorry, excuse me. Information, perhaps. Who knows? Before my tea gets cold. So good. So, anyway, but it's still, again, it was still a little bit more curated or polished online because I'd already gone through the private processing of emotions. I have yet to figure out how to process things publicly, or like in real time, like as I'm sitting here recording things. This is all reflection. I've already done work, and now I'm like regurgitating that work back to people to teach. And so, because there is a privacy line, and I don't know if that chain is if that's the chain that needs to be broken, as like a Cancer rising, as someone who's meant to be completely breaking their shells and the soft, vulnerable thing, which I am, which is why, again, I have like a really protective husband. His name's Chad, which means defender. My name's Sarah, which means princess. He's literally the defender of the princess in my fun little joke that I have between us. And so, how do you do that? But also, like, I have this warrior essence where I have had to be alone, and so it reminds me of Daenerys, Game of Thrones. She was our queen, princess, queen, etc., but she also had her own essence. She had to defend herself, and I feel like that was that's been a huge part of my journey. And so it's been incredibly imperfect. It's been remarkably imperfect. And it all came boiling to a head at the Scorpio meltdown, where I was actively vulnerable in real time. And that was something I've never done, because I don't remember if I said this in a take that I deleted, or if I said this at the beginning of the video. Don't remember. But I wasn't planning on how that video like went. I was thinking I was going to be recording something that I had already processed and was expressing, again, which is all about the prices. It's all about the price point of what it is that I'm doing, and just how quick people are to judge and hate and just be shitty to someone who's putting themselves out there. And I mean, here's the thing: you can talk your shit, you cannot like me, you don't have to embrace me. I think there's a level of tolerance or coexistence that I think is really important. But generally speaking, I'm unsure the disconnect in how we treat people online. And as someone who hasn't treated people fairly online, innocent in this experience, but you kind of get lost in it. It's like, well, this is the online culture and this is just what you do, and then that becomes your excuse, and then you don't really feel good about it inside. And then, or there's times where you're like, well, I'm just being myself, and this is how I would be. And so then it's like, well, is there something wrong with me, or why is it okay for other people to be this way, and why is it okay for this, and then you get like lost into all of these just what what is the fucking problem here? What is the problem with my philosophies? What's the problem with my prices? What is the problem with any of the things that I'm doing? If this is what it takes to do what it is that I do, to be who it is that I am.